Hello, everyone. Today I'm covering how to create a powerful and genuine confidence. Why does this matter? Because confidence is one of these foundational ideas that spreads into every other area of your life. Without confidence, all other areas are going to be drained. I'll describe true confidence as being this ability to know exactly how you want to feel and knowing how to make others feel that way as well. And confidence, it's founded upon a balance of action, reflection, trust, and consistency. When you pair those four ideas together, that's when you become what you admire. And what confidence is not, see, it's helpful for us to know what we're running from while having a clear idea of what we're aiming at. So confidence is not arrogant, rude, loud, and obnoxious like many people act. I'm not sure. Maybe you know who Kobe Covington is, but that is the character that we don't want to become. And he's probably just playing a role. I don't know. Not judging him individually, just using him as an example of what true confidence isn't, because he is that loud and obnoxious, I'm better than you sort of personality. And see, true confidence, it is nuanced. I'm not saying that you don't have self-respect, that you don't stand for your values. And no, true confidence understands where to draw the line. That being said, it is interesting. It links to this idea of you have two ears, one mouth for a reason. And the confident people are not the ones spouting way more than on the other hand, the truly confident ones, they grasp, oh, I have one mouth, two ears. I shall go about it in that ratio. And it's it's interesting how paradoxical and tricky things are. But the reality is that many, I would say the average Joe, has it confused. So a nice rule of thumb would be if the mediocre person that you come across at the bar in your 9 to 5 thinks that confidence is one thing, most likely it is almost the complete opposite. And notice I say most likely and almost. You might come across some intelligent people in your places of work or just out and about. But in terms of averages, many people have this whole thing just upside down. So that's a powerful thing to understand. Well, there are going to be lessons that you can learn even from those who have it upside down. See, Kobe Covington, he can be a teacher. He is a perfect example of what confidence isn't. And rather than saying, oh, he's this, he's that, and judging him, no, just use the guy and learn from him. There are degrees to what confidence isn't. I gave one example, but other characteristics of the opposite of confidence would be you're indecisive, extra dependent on others, lacking a vision or an internal burn, and you seek instant gratification constantly. So especially that instant gratification term, why is that not confidence? Because when you do not understand the link between delayed gratification and true success, that is the trouble right there. Those who seek instant gratification, they end up partaking in actions which lead them feeling guilty or moving in the wrong direction. Like when you do a certain thing, for example, you eat processed food consistently, very frequently, it leaves you feeling unhealthy because it is not high quality fuel. And then you lack confidence, not only because you feel unhealthy and have low frequency thinking, but your body also reflects what you put inside of it. So the feedback loop there is you have an action, which is consuming bullshit, and then you have a feeling, which is a low quality feeling, and then from your feelings, it leads you back into thoughts, and from your thinking, you go back into certain actions. Inevitably, that cycle will have to break if you desire to create this genuine confidence where you can just be yourself and have this sort of high energy, this light where you're not wearing a mask like most people. You're not people pleasing. You can say yes or no to what feels correct and not feel bad about saying yes or no. And to conclude this, when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So we have to we have to get so crystal clear on what our priorities are. Because, for example, you eat processed food. I'm not telling you what to do, not at all. You do as you please. But the point is, there are trade offs. And if your priority is true confidence, you're going to have to understand that one of the trade offs is you consume high quality input due to your priority of generating powerful confidence. So you're always in charge of where you go and who you become. Every decision you make, it's a vote for where you want to go. So it's up to you. And eh, that's what it comes down to, is you knowing who you are deep within. What do you want to become? Practically, how do we become more decisive and less dependent on others? There's various things, but to become more decisive, one place to begin would be to organize. Well, we touched on priorities. So, to organize your life in line with your values and priorities, to realize what you want to say yes to, and to be so clear and to not feel bad about saying no to certain things. For example, I can recall this phase of just unraveling, wait, I don't want to do certain things anymore. And therefore, I went from having acquaintances to feeling lonely, which is difficult. But that being said, before your life gets better, usually it has to get worse. So, what I mean there is, it's not actually getting worse, but it feels worse because you're extending yourself out of your comfort zone. See, when you're with the acquaintances and you are indecisive, well, you're sort of living on autopilot mode and you're not being truly honest to yourself. You're not taking time to reflect. So when your life begins to feel worse, it's because you've actually said, you know what? I know what I don't want to become, and I see the direction I'm headed. So now it's time to make some changes. And when you make changes, you bring yourself out of comfort zone, and that brings uncomfortable emotion. But on the other side of your uncomfortable emotion is you becoming stronger. So this is what I mean every time I speak of nuance and paradox. It's tricky. Like but all that being said, the game is meant to be tricky. If the game was simple, it would be boring. So that's the magic in this whole thing, is that psychology is just open-ended and ever complex. But you will get to a certain point once you learn to enjoy a healthy lifestyle where you realize, oh, it's actually not that complex. We just make it complex by having false programming in thinking that certain ideas or ideologies or ways of living are better than another. And again, we're exactly where we're meant to be. So if you're watching this video, this is at least a sign that, wait, maybe you're recognizing past conditioning, indoctrination, and programming, and you're realizing, oh, there's something different. I might have created some sort of glass ceiling, and I think it's time to sort of smash through that. That might be you. In relation to true confidence, we have to admit that you can't fix anything that we do not first admit can be better. So this hints at the concept of denial. And I have to be articulate with how I present myself so that I don't trigger individuals' cognitive walls. Because, especially if we start talking about things like alcohol or weed or any sort of substance, people will put up their wall immediately. They're like, oh, I'm leaving this video, sort of thing, because they're so attached to a certain belief system or a way of living, a lifestyle, that the moment that their ego feels any sort of resistance or friction coming in from the exterior, they almost sprint away. So this is interesting, how tricky the mind is. So I guess why not explain the difference between your sense of I and then what you know inside is actually where you want to go. Um, the sense of I is the one who likes to stay in the comfort zone. And then your other self is the version which knows I'm not exactly what I could become. It knows that there is more potential within, and the ego, the sense of I, brings you back and says, wait, you're okay, you're fine as you are. And the thing is, you are fine as you are. But if you have a sense within that you could become more confident, clear, articulate, genuinely strong about who you are and how you view yourself, then that is that internal potential looking to express itself. And that this is what I'll label the internal battle. There are multiple forces within, and we kind of have to figure out how to balance the two. See, I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever do certain things like drink or smoke weed or have substances, whatever your comfort zone may be right now. What I'm aiming to express is in order for you to reach your potential, you might have to go through phases and seasons of lingering down on certain things, even erasing certain things. For example, a common thing that we see in society today is two people being averaged together. So rather than going on your solo mission, looking for your potential and changing your lifestyle, actually just iterating on who you are, they stay in the comfort zone of being average with a partner, with a group of friends in the hometown, and never actually expanding the mind and therefore moving toward the true potential. And this is due to a lack of confidence, because if you had that strong, powerful, genuine self-belief, then you would understand exactly what is happening. Because I had this emotion. It was the internal battle. Being in my old situation, there was always part of me which was like, oh, this is fine. And then the other part, which would just be like drained and sick and tired of doing what I was doing every day. Inevitably, something changed. I got sick of being sick and tired. If you can at all feel that, then it's just time to start making some slow shifts. Like, practically, what do you do if you're sick of feeling sick and tired? You look and are willing to admit to yourself, first, that you could be better. Once you admit that, then it's time to make practical shifts. And this comes in the forms of habits and a change in your environment. So, more often than not, we need to subtract before we add new things. And when we subtract, like, what are we looking at? I would say, number one, you want to learn how to be alone and to be productively healthy when you're alone. So it's not that you only have to be working on a deep focused project when you're by yourself, but you also want to do things like go for a long solo walk. Just do, maybe if you're starting off, 5 minutes of breath work in the morning and at nighttime, 5 minutes of stretching morning and nighttime. Like breath work and stretching AM and PM to set the tone for your day and for the quality of your rest. So powerful, and it doesn't take too much time either. So what I'm getting at there when I say it doesn't take too much time, when you're making these shifts from where you are now to where you want to go, it's going to require consistency and patience. And therefore, there's this concept which I love. It's deeply profound, sustainable intensity. It's realizing that you want to change your life in a way where you don't burn out, but you're also pushing through your glass ceiling. You're testing your limiting beliefs. And we have to at least identify that we have limiting beliefs, be willing to admit that maybe our psychological wiring needs to be unlearned and reprogrammed. That's a deep concept. And I could go into that. I will go into that in future episodes, but it's too much for right now. One core idea we need to outline in generating powerful confidence is that you do not seek others' approval. That being said, there will be people whom you respect deeply. That's okay to ask for their thoughts, to look for feedback. Big difference between seeking approval and getting feedback from people whom you respect. So the average Joe will give you advice when you don't even ask for advice. Those are the people who you just say, I don't need your feedback and I do not care for your approval. You don't have to say it to their face. You can say, okay, sure. And then, come to that conclusion in solitude. And let me expand upon that, because this is part of being confident, which is not needing everyone to know your truth. For example, there are going to be people who are disrespectful, who are lost, confused, and they spread that energy to you. You don't need to go all powerful and wise on them. You can actually just take a step back, disassociate yourself from the individual or the environment. And that's how you truly show confidence. It's not, what's this idea? Like, the best samurais are the ones who don't need to use their sword, and they are capable of learning how to disengage without showing their true strength. The fool is the one who's like, I'm strong, let me show you I'm strong. That's actually true insecurity, because if you were truly confident, you wouldn't have any need to show and prove your strength. So this is the paradox again. It's tricky. But when it comes to not seeking approval, like, how do we practically become the person who doesn't need others' approval? You have to be super clear on your vision and your values, understanding what's most important to you, what way of living do you respect, and have a handful of people or teachers, mentors, friends who you truly respect. And then, like we say often, the average Joe just doesn't know what they're doing. And even the mentors, if they're truly wise, they're not going to act like they know it all, because no one knows it all. All I'm sharing here, I don't know jack. Like, all I'm sharing is what has helped me in my direct experience. And let me tell you, there's so many lessons that I am yet to learn, so many road bumps that inevitably I'm going to have to overcome in my future. And see, this is the way of life, understanding you create confidence, you live a clear, focused, sober lifestyle, so that when the inevitable waves and moments of turmoil come, you have the composure, the tools, the ability, and the observation of your own internal state to be able to overcome that inevitable wave. See, it's not that life gets easier, but you become wiser, and then the challenges which used to be difficult have become much smaller. I saw a video once, and Kevin Durant, he shot this cash over a guy, and he looks at him and he goes, so what I mean there is that the problems become smaller. It's in as they become smaller, we also become bigger. When I mention action, trust, consistency, and reflection, it's important to understand the difference between being consistent in the wrong, low quality actions and trusting in an unhealthy vision, or are you being consistent in doing high leverage actions that are aligned with a deep purpose that is bigger than yourself? See, an example of the low quality route would be, I'm doing this business thing because I want this status, that girl, in this car, because that is so egotistical and shallow. What I'm not saying there is that you can't have a beautiful girl, an awesome car, and get wealthy. My point is, there needs to be a reason deeper than those three things that I listed. So your reason could be something like making an impact on humanity at large, which is going to leave the world in a better way than when you were born. And therefore, if it just so happens that you become wealthy, get a beautiful, loving relationship through that avenue, hey, That's what I'm getting at. So your purpose, it matters what the detail is behind you doing what you do every day. And this really is only possible through understanding what is the high leverage needle moving actions and what is it that is slowing you down that you actually don't need to be prioritizing or that you don't need to be doing at all. It's interesting because we're going to go through phases, and there are going to be certain seasons where you do specific high leverage actions and you don't do certain other things, but that's a season. And then inevitably, you will come to a new phase where, oh, your needle or your highest leverage actions have changed a little bit, and maybe you can loosen up and do certain things that you weren't doing in another phase. So the theme, the concept here for all of us to understand is balance is not symmetrical. It's not down the middle. Just as true confidence is not loud and I'm going to prove you. That's not true confidence. True confidence is it's not what it seems like. It's not what culture and society makes it seem like. So same thing goes with balance. You can't just split the square down the middle and say, okay, we're balanced. It's actually, sometimes you'll be 1/3 and 3/4 a certain way, and that will be balanced for a phase. It's sort of zooming out and understanding that life is seasons, just as nature is seasons. That is the concept that if you understand and apply to your life, it will help you make so much more sense of everything that happens. That nature is to be modeled in your own life. Winter is not just cold. Sometimes it's really cold. Sometimes summer is really hot. What I'm getting at here is that if you can have the know-how to zoom out and look at how nature acts and realize, there are beautiful animals, and then there are animals which rip beautiful animals to shreds, and that is just how it works. This is hitting on balance. Like if we just had only the good, the beautiful, things would not be right. And how? Why can't we just have all the good and the beautiful? You wouldn't know it's beautiful because you wouldn't have anything to contrast it against. For example, when the tide goes out in the ocean, the only reason you know the tide is out is because the tide comes in. Same thing with what's beautiful and with what's ugly. So this is balance. This is the paradox. True confidence is understanding that you will still have tough moments. But I mentioned earlier, this is a similar idea. It used to be tough minutes, hours, and days, even weeks. Now it's tough moments. So understanding that, we're moving in a healthier direction. And if I had to sum up not the most, but a very powerful tactic, it would be, how quick do you catch yourself in psychological turmoil? Meaning, if you're overthinking, if something emotionally frustrating has just occurred, how quick can you notice that you're overthinking, that you're turning something